We're allowed to do it. We will check on you all.
All right. Yeah. All right. We will go back into the meeting. Hopefully we'll get word that the audio is working. The next sign up we have is Frank Daltrey. Well, we restarted it and we're hoping it's going to work.
Hello, you all. I've seen something here tonight. In all my years of coming to council, I've never seen this. I've seen Barb turn her microphone upside down and do something with it. She adjusted it somehow or something. I've never seen anybody do that. I know there's all kind of adjustments on there, and I don't know what it is. What did you do, Barb? I'm just curious.
Turned it off and turned it back on. I turned it off and
Oh, is that what you did? Okay, I know there's different adjustments on there. Okay, I'd just like to report that I made the market house with the new kitchen being open. I was in there 3 times. The steak, I ate steak sandwich and the pulled pork, they're out of this world. I mean, really, really good. I got the cheesesteak with the peppers and the onions, good. But anybody that wants good food, believe me, I think that's the place to go. Maybe the hours don't suit everybody, but I'll give my approval on the food. Going back to your opening statement, Heather, I think the older I get, the dumber I get. You went through that pretty good. I didn't get a chance to understand that. Are you telling me that we can't bring nothing up like that? What do you really,
I'm
can you
saying
break it down?
We're not going to address it anymore. We've said it. We've given the policy. We're done.
Okay,
We're not going to answer questions on it.
well, I was given advice that in my 5 minutes, I can bring up what I want to bring up as long
And I'm
as
not saying you can't bring it
Okay,
up. I'm just
okay.
saying
I
we're not
understand
going
that.
to talk about it.
If you let me finish, I always like to let people finish when they're speaking, and I don't have a problem with that. But it's just that I was the one that brought it up the last time, and I was unclear on a couple things as to who authorized that letter to be sent because of what you said, of what council said at the last meeting. They knew nothing of this policy, but yet the mayor said it's standard policy. So I'm confused as hell, and I don't know. I'd like to know who authorized the solicitor to send the letter to begin with if you know nothing about it, that you didn't know anything on that policy. And that's just a simple question. If you don't care to answer it.
No, I think we've beat that horse to death. So
Well, anyway, it just confused me that, you sent the letter, then at the last meeting, you said, well, we know, nobody knows anything of that policy. Now, is there a policy or isn't there a policy? I think the public will have a right to know that anyway. Is there a policy relating to you're not allowed on borough property? All my years on council, I never heard it. I talked to other council people, they never heard nothing like that. So we're just trying to get to the bottom of it. When you say something, you're supposed to mean what you say and say what you mean. We're just trying to understand that part of it. Nobody give me a comment, huh?
I'll say so.
I said it in my statement what the policy
Well,
is.
I didn't, I asked you if you'd break it down and it didn't quite sink in. The older I get, the harder it is for me to understand. So I have to take the fifth on that.
I think Heather made a good point of explaining it tonight, how the policy was. It may or may not have been explained before as policy, written or unwritten. I think any such case like what happened back then, and I'm not going to rehash it, we all heard publicly and discussed many times what may or may not have happened. Each case has to be looked at on its own merit and individually and what makes the most sense. And at that time, it made the most sense to take the action that was taken to bar the individual from the borough from the borough properties. You have to look each case by its own merit.
All
And
right.
that's what I feel the police and police chief, the mayor, and the staff did, and I support them behind it.
It kind of helps me a little bit. The only question that I still like to ask is, once that policy was delivered or put on the person, at what point will that be rescinded? I mean, you can't,
We can't answer that right now.
I can't answer that right now
why?
because I'm not going to answer it.
Just
Pure and
don't know.
simple.
Yeah, there's,
If it made sense on a case by case basis to explain it, I would. All of us would, but it does not. When that time comes, I'm sure the explanation will be given
Okay.
when that time comes.
Okay, and a good point is everybody should be treated equal, correct?
yes.
Very good. Very
Absolutely.
good. All right. Okay, and it is my understanding when the police or the mayor or the police department give their report, we do have the right to ask questions and comment and whatever, because you had shot me down at the one meeting. You said, no, we're going on with the rest of the meeting, even though I didn't get my 3 minutes. Do we or don't we get the opportunity to question or add comments? I had some comments that would
The
have helped
comments,
the mayor.
or-
I had some comments that would have helped the mayor's comments, but go ahead.
So the public comment on agenda items is meant to allow you to provide feedback prior to items being decisioned, which is exactly what the letter of the Sunshine Act says. It does not mean that you have the right to comment on every item on the agenda. You are, the whole point of that, I mean, if we need to go back to say you have 2 comment periods and you're not commenting during the agenda at all, which is what a lot of people say we should do, then that's what we do. But the comment period on the agenda items is to provide feedback before we action them. If you have comments or questions on the reports, you're welcome to address staff either before or after the meeting. That's always an option.
So how do we know what the mayor or the chief is going to bring out? How can we comment on that in my 5 minutes if I don't know what they're going to say? And I'll give you, for instance, the mayor was referring to the bus stop and some of the things that was going on. Well, I wanted to point out over here in front of the market manager's car, there was a whole pile of shit. And I'm going to use that word just to be blunt. And I just want to let them know that maybe this had something to kind of do with that. Not trying to hurt him in any way.
Right,
Just wanted
no.
to know there was other things going on too alongside it. But if they make comments on things, how can how do I know that ahead of time unless we listen to their comments and then we have something we'd like to comment on? I just want to know if we can do that.
No, you can comment on items that are due to be actioned. That's where your comments during agenda items for public comment on agenda items.
Point out that if the mayor or the chief, ooh, that's awful.
Oh, it's awful loud.
Yeah.
I think that's on.
Yeah, if the mayor or the chief say something and you'd like to address it, you always have the ability at the next meeting during the non-agenda item portion of public comment to address that. So just want to make sure that, you have the opportunity. It may not be immediate and you may be able to address it with them after the meeting, but you do have the ability to make a public comment at the next meeting during the non-agenda item portion of public comment. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, there's items coming up with hiring police officers. I'm not questioning that, but I just want to comment to that. In Washington, they have this big, beautiful bill. And I don't know if any of you know, there's funds in there to fund police officers. Now, this can't take effect until October. Now, it's not voted on yet, but supposedly it's going to pass. But there is funds in there for the hiring of new police officers.
Yes,
So,
thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that wanted to speak that did not get a chance to sign up? All right. Presentation and acceptance of reports, community development.
I'd like to acknowledge the receipt of the Columbia Market House report for April 2025. Questions?
All right. Public Works and Property.
Yes, I would like to acknowledge the receipt of the Public Works and Property Report for May 2025. Any questions, comments?
Did I leave them all April?
Yes.
Oh my gosh, they're all May. I changed those. All right. Finance, I would like to acknowledge receipt of the finance reports for April. These are actually the April reports. And they're in here because we said at the last meeting they were not available at that time. Questions on the finance? Oh, the finance report, the revenue and expenditure report may look a little different than what you're used to seeing. That's because Laurie actually found a report that does it all in one instead of individuals, and it's much more comprehensive. And I actually kind of like it because the first column gives a prior year to this point. So you can see where we are this year versus last year at this point. So I really kind of like it. So we're going to keep using this report because it's a lot easier. You know, there's less parameters you have to set. It's a standard report. So if anyone has any questions on what they're looking at, let me know. Yes? I mean,
The report you're just referring to, where it says net income, I don't have page numbers on this section, so I can't direct you to a page, but it's like capital fund. And then at the bottom under net income, it has a negative beside that. What does that actually mean? On a couple places I see that.
that would be, I believe that's would indicate more spent than
spent.
is received.
Okay. That's whatever. Thank you. Oh, shoot.
I just wanted to ask you because I
Oh,
don't remember.
geez.
seeing- I don't want to let it go to the end.
Oh, thank you. We did not approve the agenda. We did not approve the amended agenda. Could I have a motion
Get
to
a redo.
approve the reorganized agenda?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilperson Kaufman, second by Councilperson Geezy to approve the reorganized agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Thank you, Joanne. I'm doing too many things at once here lately. I know. All right. And personnel.
Yes, I'd like to acknowledge the receipt of retirement notice for Steve Kaufman.
Mayor Lutz,
Okay, hold on.
Palmer.
I'm going to bounce around here a little bit
All right. That's all right. I did too.
since I wasn't here last meeting. It was discussed tonight about robberies. There was a robbery today at a smoke shop. A couple of days ago, there was a second robbery at the smoke shop down the street. I think we beat the smoke shops to death, but this is indicative of when you have a bunch of these smoke shops in town. But a word of caution to the merchants. If I were a merchant in Columbia Borough, remember the old signs that said no shirt, no shoes, no service? it would be no hood, no mask. You know, I just can't imagine owning a business and have someone walk into my business with their hood up and a mask on. And that is one of the problems we're seeing in trying to pick out these people. I do know there are suspects involved. We have suspects involved in both of these robberies. Some conversation about the bus stop. I stood on the porch out here on a step in the rain, pouring down rain, with two gentlemen who were waiting for the bus. And I've done this at least twice. When the bus turned the corner at 3rd and Locust, they walked up and got on the bus. There was ample time to walk up and get on the bus. Matter of fact, they hung back a little bit till the bus dropped down, and then they walked up and got on the bus. So the issue of not being able to leave from here and get on the bus, to me, don't hold water. Since that time, there's been different comments about the bus stop. And I will tell you, right now, we are considering moving the bus stop. And the reason for that is if you're around, I have pictures. Didn't want to take time to put them on up tonight, but I'm sure you all saw it. When the bus pulls in here, it blocks Market Street. Our police go in and out there. You know, and when that bus stop was created, the market wasn't in operation. So on a Saturday, you have a crosswalk there. People are starting across the crosswalk, going around the bus, sometimes coming north. They're going around the bus and stepping out, sticking their head out in back of the bus to see if there's any cars coming. So it's blocking, and it's also blocking egress into the Market House parking lot. So it's becoming a problem. The problem gets larger when the rapid transit bus stacks up in back of it. And you may have seen that. Chief and I stood and watched that. So there is a problem there, and it's a safety problem. This isn't about taking the bus shelter down. What we're talking about is safety. This is becoming an unsafe area, you know, and we want to do everything we can to keep people in Columbia safe. But it seems to be growing that problem. I don't know if the buses are longer or what, but they don't fit in there anymore. And we're thinking about maybe up on the next corner where they can pull in, and then there's an intersection and a light for them to pull out. It may make a little more sense. We're looking at it. I'm not saying we're going to do that. We're looking at it. Had some very preliminary discussion on that, but we are recognizing that there is a problem with that bus stop. Last week, I wasn't at the meeting, nor was Chief Romer. We were at graduation. And I got to tell you, it was a great night. It was 88, I think it was 88 seniors graduated. Very well attended. Those who spoke did a wonderful job. I walked out of there feeling proud of our students and what they've accomplished. But while I was up at the graduation, there was discussion concerning statements that I made. And it seems like every time I miss a meeting, someone wants to make some statements about something I either did or made. So let me talk about that a little bit. When I said standard procedure, I didn't say it was Columbia Borough's standard procedure. I didn't say it was anybody's standard procedure. I said it is a standard procedure. Now, regarding the police department, several times since I have been mayor, officers have been discharged or have chosen to quit rather than face being discharged. When that happened, they are immediately must give up their borough equipment, and they're ushered to the door, and they're off the premise. During that, sometime later, the chief and a member of the union will go through their desk and or locker and gather their personal effects. And at some time, once those effects are gathered and it's determined that they're all belong to the ex-employee, they will be contacted to come pick them up. 33 years I worked for a company. That was the procedure for the 33 years I was there. When an employee was discharged, their badge was taken, they were ushered off the property, and they remained off that property until the union steward and the manager went through their locker and their toolbox, and it was determined there was no company property. The toolbox was banded, sent to security. The ex-employee was contacted, and they could go to the security office and pick up their things. That's standard procedure. Standard procedure in Columbia Borough Police Department is what I said. And as long as I'm around, that will be standard procedure in Columbia Borough Police Department. I think our borough manager, Steve Caulfield, did the right thing in what he did. You know, the Market House is different than this building. It's a public place. There's a lot of people in and out of that building. And I like to err on the side of being safe than sorry. And so many times you've read in the newspaper or saw on TV where something happened in a community, and the first thing out of the people's mouth is, I didn't think it would happen in our town. We don't want that to happen in our town. We're not saying that, but we're making sure that it won't happen in our town. And as was so elegantly put out by our council president, there are other issues that Columbia Borough must protect itself from. If there are any legal issues, the borough must protect any evidence or testimony. If not, it could become contaminated and not work in the borough's favor on that. And our job is to protect the borough. I feel at some time that issue will be lifted and life will go on as normal. But people have been, let me say again, standard procedure in the police department. I just outlined it. Now, you may not have heard about it because we don't talk about it. And I think any employee discharged and not allowed on the property, I don't think they really want to talk about it. But it happened in this issue. Okay? Enough said on that. Chief, you have anything you want to go
I
over?
do. It brings me great pleasure to announce the start of the senior parking permit. It will be available tomorrow. So let me pass out these packets to council members.
Thank you.
So for any resident age 65 or older, they are welcome to come into the borough office starting tomorrow. They can pick up an application. They'll need to fill it out. They will receive a copy of the rules for Chapter 207 of the Borough Code. The application itself will also be available on the Borough website, as well as the Police Department website, which is Crime Watch. So do you have any questions for me at all?
When will the stickers be available?
Stickers are available.
Wow.
Yes.
Well, you
We're
know,
ready to roll with this program.
I probably told a dozen people since this happened about this program.
Oh, I
They-
know.
They didn't know about it.
I
And they
know.
are so happy about it. As a matter of fact, one person I talked to, they were in the lobby paying a ticket. And I told them, you won't have to do that once you fill out this application. He said, I was only here a couple minutes. I said, this will take care of that. So that may be your last ticket.
Do they have to come into the front desk and ask for the application, or will they be out
They
there?
do. The front desk
Okay,
will have the applications.
police department or the borough?
No, the borough side.
Okay.
Thank you.
This is a great thing. And Steve, thank you for bringing this.
Thank you, Steve, and thank you, Chief, for following through with this.
Yes, I was at a 90th birthday party last weekend with all elderly people, and I made sure they all knew that this was the thing now. I even had people from Virginia ask me if they could get it for when they come to visit their mom. And I said, no, I'm sorry, you have to live here. So move back here, and then you can participate. All right. Right. Presentations. The first thing we have is Mike Knob. I wasn't quite sure where to put this, Mike, so I put it as a presentation because I'm not sure what we're going to do. So I figured let you present, come to the microphone, and I included the email that you sent. I included that in the packet so that everyone is aware.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity to come and share my concern here with how we can bring more business into Columbia here. I opened up January of 2022. One thing I found out over the years, summertime for some reason seems to be hard for us to draw people uptown. One thing I've noticed is we've got thousands of people going to the rail trail. I mean, it gets used extensively. Coffee and Creamery down there does extremely well during this time of year because they're right there at the rail trail. Was discussing with another friend about the fencing that is along the rail trail, wondering who owned that. So then I did find out that is borough property. What I'd like to propose is that we can actually put some signage down there like you see in the baseball stadium. Nice, attractive signs that tell people where we're at up here in Columbia, just a couple blocks away. We need to bring people in town and not just come in to ride the trail, get in their car and leave, and then maybe go across the river to get something to eat, maybe go to Marietta. We need to let them know what's going on in Columbia because Columbia is my second home. I'm here as much as I am in the big city of Starkville, which is mainly to sleep anymore. I want to see this continue to grow. I don't want to have to wait on the hotel opening up next year. I don't know if I'll be here next year with another summer the way they've been going. So what I propose is that the borough would let us businesses put up signage on that fence, attractive signage, directing people to what we have in town, directing them uptown, bringing them a couple blocks up, they can see the Griddles, the Kettle Works, Starview Brews, Union Station Grill, Hinkles, all these places we have to go to. I have a flyer I'd like to hand out which shows roughly where I'm looking at putting the sign, actually along the fences, and what I had in mind. I didn't have enough for everybody,
That's all right.
but you can share. That shows the sign. So this one, that's the sign itself. That's the position. The one that shows the sign on the fence shows where I'm looking at putting it. And I think this would be a big plus for a lot of the businesses here in Columbia. It's something that I wanted to kind of spearhead and maybe get the council to approve it. Because I think this is a fantastic way to use what we have available. Let me go back up to the podium. Tim says I'm usually a loud talker anyway, so I don't even need a microphone, but I better use it. So the idea came to me that if we could get approval to get the signage up, this is an excellent way to draw people in town. It's going to cost us businesses the cost of getting the sign made, but it shouldn't cost us to put it up on fencing that the borough already owns. It's a way to draw people in town, and the borough council could look at the signs that are being made. Maybe you can give approval to the looks of the sign, because we wanted something attractive that's going to draw people into town. I want to continue to grow here. It took me 3 years to break even, and it's been tough. This is the hardest thing I've done in my life, and I don't mean this in a bad way. If I was downtown Newark or Lancaster, I think I'd be doing double the business. But Columbia is growing, and that's part of the reason I came here. I believed in what I saw going on here, and I still believe in it. But we need a way to help us businesses now. They can't wait, keep waiting another year. I'd love to see our summer have our best summer ever here, and I think this is one way to help promote it. Promoting our seafood, promoting our beers, and I get a sign up there, other businesses are going to want to follow. And I think it's a big plus for all of us. Doesn't cost the borough anything to do this. And I'm hoping that you agree that you think this is a good method that we could attract people into town. It's the key to us growing. Growing as we all want to grow. I want to do this the rest of my life. My wife, maybe not. She might not want to do this the rest of her life. That's another story. But it has been hard, and I'm hoping the council can help me to turn things around quicker here for us businesses.
I wish Paul was here.
Yeah.
Vacation. I like this. It even shields some.
It does.
Non-attractive areas.
Yes.
The thought that crosses my mind, and that's why, the reason I mentioned Paul's name, the sign should fit within our sign ordinance.
Yep.
But I would suggest that that whatever sign is agreed upon for you, since you are the first person to come in, if council agrees, that all signs are made with that same size, so that when they're on the fence, they're all the
They're
same.
uniform. They're
Yeah,
uniform.
they're all uniform.
And the one
That's a
thing,
suggestion. I think it's great.
the one thing I looked at was sizing it for a panel. There's at least 45 panels along there that could be, 45 different businesses. And there's the centers between the fence posts is 8 foot.
Well, like I say, it would have to meet the sign ordinance unless
Well-
there be a waiver on it.
I think this could be different because it's different fencing on a sign versus what I got hanging out in front of my business.
That I can't answer, that's what I'm saying. I need a professional.
Because we kind of already have the fencing there. I mean, it's already sized for that. Just a thought that I had.
But that is,
Would we need an ordinance or a change for that?
Well, because here's my thought. We have in our ordinance that there is no off-premise signage.
Here's what I think. This might solve that problem. We talked the last work session about renting space that the borough owns for marketing purposes. In this case, I think that sign is a perfect place to generate revenue from folks that want to promote their businesses in town, or anywhere, actually. It doesn't need to be in town, but folks compete for the space. If they do put a sign down there, it's not signage for the business. It's advertising space.
Right.
Just like a billboard would be.
Well, right.
So,
But
I
if
don't know
it's,
I don't think
if
our
it's,
ordinance would necessarily, that signage ordinance.
but if
would-
if it's free though,
I don't want it to be
it
free.
would be. Do you
I don't
know,
want it to be
that's,
free.
that was my concern.
I don't want it to be free. We need to generate revenue. We've got space, let's use it.
I strongly agree with that.
I would also, my concern, I think it is a great idea if you can figure out a way to do it. My concern would be if you didn't, yeah, my mic is pretty awful. Yeah, if you were to,
Derek's is good.
not charge anything for it, you might be seen as kind of picking, eventually you may get 45 signs down there. And the position the borough doesn't want to be in is picking winners and losers as far as businesses are concerned.
Correct.
So I think at least some type of fee there where you can say this person is paying us for this space and they can have it as long as they continue paying it pursuant to whatever agreement you have. I think that kind of solves that issue. But I just wanted to point that out because that's what I was thinking as he was proposing this.
So, well, the one thing the business is going to incur is definitely an expense for having signs.
So my,
It's a great idea.
my question back to you, Evan, is it's going to require a certain type of banner. Usually vinyl with the holes in it so the wind can blow through and stuff like that. Maybe also a attachment requirement or,
The one thing
so would this be in an ordinance or would this just be something we'd say this is a rule that?
Yeah, you would not have to put that in an ordinance. It'd be like kind of a rules and regulations for that area for these signs. Yeah, I don't think you'd have to put, that's kind of an internal
in getting a
thing.
quote on the sign, the one thing I found out, instead of the banner material, there's like a PVC board, which is much more rugged and holds up better than a banner. It holds up with rigidity for being out in the weather. This is from a quote I got on the sign.
I think a good conversation would be with Sticky Graphics in town. Another local business that does exactly what you're
Yeah, I had
proposing to do.
our printing,
Maybe even have them,
Art Printing gave me the
art
quotes.
printing, do they
I've
they
been
print
talking to
banners
Rowdy.
as well?
I've been talking to Rowdy. Yeah, and he'd be interested in putting a sign down there.
if you're renting the space, I don't think you need to have an ordinance.
Right. Yep.
I didn't know.
You
this
would
was-
rent with these parameters.
Mhm.
Well, as a business owner, the rent can't get too crazy.
I was gonna say, I wouldn't charge too much.
No,
Because I want to see it happen.
right, I do too.
A lot of us are struggling businesses to begin with.
The other question I have is just making sure we have all our i's dotted and t's crossed. That fence is in the historic district. Our sign ordinance, does that override the historic ordinance?
I don't think that is a historic district. That's out of the historic district. That, matter of fact, Matt looked into that. Where it's actually zoned, it's not the historic district.
Oh, okay. I thought the historic district went the whole way to the river.
It's not in there, because he actually,
There are specific regulations for signs in the historic.
Yeah,
there Okay.
yeah, he showed me on the map, it's actually right out, it's outside of the historic.
41 separates.
You have to
Oh,
check,
okay.
check to be sure, but.
Can we put this on the work session for next month? I want to
Yeah.
expedite this conversation so he can get some,
Yep.
if we're going to say yes to it, so he can get his signage up.
Yeah, summer's burning
Figure
away.
this out.
Yeah, 22056 is, non-conforming off-premise signs. There's a whole lot of stuff in here, but I'm reading something about something hanging on a fence, another fence. That we don't really have anything per se, word for word in there. I think it's a good idea to bring it to the work session so we can come to an agreement of what kind of language we want to put in there.
I hope we can expedite it,
Do our best.
because summer's ticking away. It's just, I'd love to see it turn around.
And just to throw this out there, I was also informed when I brought this up at the work session that Susquehanna National Heritage was looking to be able to rent the space and take the money from it and put banners there as well. Now, I don't know if that hasn't come to me. I just heard that that was a discussion they wanted to have. No, it's not. So I just wanted full transparency for people to know that they were also looking to do the same thing, but they were looking to take the rent for it. Great. We will talk about this at the July workshop. Thank you.
You said July?
Yep.
Okay.
Isn't there a way to do it?
I'd like to talk to Paula when she gets back, because we meet once a month anyway, Steve, myself, and
You
Paula.
got 2 weeks to.
See what we can,
Yeah.
see what we can get and send out to all council, and maybe we can get it back in 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm. All right. The next presentation is Derek, and the engineer would like to present some changes that PennDOT brought up about the 100 and 200 block of Walnut Street project. So we figured it was best to put it in a presentation because it's not something that we need to take official action on.
Right, so as you all know, we are nearing the end of getting this project out to bid. As part of the final review by PennDOT, the project was flagged by the director of District 8, and it was in relation to our signal permit at 441. So PennDOT signal, the concern that PennDOT brought about is with the bike lane located on the northern side of the street, that pushing traffic to the southern side, which we're now having riverbound traffic on the lane that was otherwise be in-town traffic. I'll use those terms instead of east and west if that makes it easier for everybody. So the vehicles that would be heading towards the river would now be on what is now the left side of the road. What that presents is an issue that PennDOT was unwilling to overlook, and that's that at the 441 intersection, if a vehicle is coming out of River Park, you would have a vehicle on Walnut Street and they'd be directly across from each other. So they had minor concerns about the headlights. It basically just boiled down to them. It doesn't break any regulations. They just said, it's just not normal. It was kind of the terminology that was utilized. And I respect that. But basically what PennDOT said overall is they were just concerned with how we would be taking traffic. If you consider being on Walnut Street, say you're in the 300 block and you're heading towards the river. They just had an overall concern with the traffic being pushed to the other lane. And then as you got down towards the river, they were requiring that at the 441 intersection, we push the traffic back to the current lane. What I'd like to do is I'd like to take over this TV, show you. See which one we'll take. Oh, it's gonna give you that. If that's okay with everyone. It's, you need the remote. You have to hit the allow with the remote.
It's on
I think I did it with a, you know what, I can try to cast as well. That worked during the, I can do this. There we go.
Okay. We're up here.
Now we're over here.
Yeah, now we're over here.
Try it over here.
Okay.
Let me see.
It worked for us at the PC meeting, didn't it, Mary? All right. Well, this is gonna be really challenging without
We
visuals.
just all come around, gather around the computer.
Is that the one? There you go.
Try again now.
I was trying to cast to this tree when I go, let's see if I can get on this one. Try to bring the allow there. There's your allow button. That might not be the remote for that TV. That's the issue.
Something moving. That's all right. You know, yesterday on the Capitol. There we go.
Perfect.
Oh,
Thank you.
The audio went out.
Thanks, Pete. Say just allow.
All right, so are we gonna
Here we go.
request it again?
Here, I'm good. Tried to.
There you go.
It's not there.
No, you lost it. Request.
Yeah, it said it was, couldn't connect.
You want to try it again?
Okay.
Anytime now.
Third time's a charm.
What if you email a file to Steve and Steve just?
No, you can't get the email on that computer.
Bingo.
There we go.
All right, everyone. Thanks for bearing with me. Okay, so I wanted to convey here, this is the area where the concern is. So currently, we have the bike lane on the north side of Walnut Street as it approaches. This is 441 over here, okay? The bike lane has to kick back over to avoid the bump out. The traffic stays on this side. So the concern is with traffic coming down the street, you would have the opposing traffic on this side leaving River Park. And again, they were concerned about that. So the easiest option to keep the existing design that they gave us was basically, they said, from a traffic standpoint, you just have to put this transition lane in at the end. The problem is it would terminate the bike lane at a really, really weird spot. So if you all recall, when we first set out to do this project, we had some really hard conversations, but we all agreed that the priority of this project was going to be the bikes. That's what we were trying to do here, was create a functional bike lane to get into town. Unfortunately, with this jog here, it eliminates the connection point that the bike lane would actually have with River Park. There would be no connection. So from my standpoint, the only viable way to keep the bike lane on the north side and provide a connection point would be we'd have to terminate the bike lane at Commerce and try to do a loop around where you try to connect Commerce to Rotary to Front, and that's not ideal either. I think long-term, it makes a lot of sense to put a bike lane on Commerce, but with the upcoming 462 bridge project and everything else we're dealing with, I just don't see that in the cards in the future. So again, this is the easy one. I'm just not thrilled about it. Yes, Todd.
Well, why can't you just cut off the bump out?
Well, PennDOT put that in as part of 441.
It's not solving any problems now. And once we go to this design, that the bump out no longer solves any problems, right?
We
Can
just
be
have to-
eliminated and extend the bike path right down through where the bump out was.
We just have to let Derek finish his presentation because he didn't get done. He didn't
Yeah,
present his solution
You
yet.
didn't get me. I didn't get to the fun part yet.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah.
this is one of those problem. And now I'm going to give you the solution,
Okay,
at least
all
the solution that I'm recommending. And
But Derek, also note with this problem, we also lose at least one, probably two more parking spaces.
yes,
After we've already lost 4 on this, in this project. So,
yes, and again, remembering that we've lost.
Thought we were picking up.
Well, the idea is that we're going to build parking off of Commerce. We were looking at doubling the parking down on Commerce Street in a future project. So
Look how many you gained a block up with the lot that the borough had when we redid that whole
Yep.
one-way loop around.
So yes, this quick solution here does in turn lose more parking spaces. Okay? I will credit PennDOT with this suggestion. This is Eric Keinert is the PennDOT District 8 manager, and really good guy. I've worked with him on a couple other projects. What they've seen in some other places, and we've seen this in Lancaster City probably most notably, is the recommendation is actually to switch the bike lane to the other side of the street.
I was going to say that.
Now, Eric came into the meeting asking kind of why did we pick the north side? And I will say, we picked the north side for a lot of the right reasons. It was mainly connectivity to the 462 bridge and everything that was happening there. That was the concept we ran with, and that brought us to this point. I think with reevaluation and a little bit of redesign, so this is a little SketchUp that we did. In this, the other piece too is the northern bike lane made a lot more sense when we actually had a curbed median. When we lost that median and we went to paint, it made it a lot more challenging, especially confusing with cars kind of parked in the middle of the road. We heard a lot of feedback on that at our last public presentation on this. Looking at this design, I think it actually addresses a lot of the concerns we heard from the residents on the street. So in this configuration, the bike lane could be relocated to the southern side of the street. The parking would actually go back to the curb line. Okay, you would no longer have vehicles parking in the middle of the road. This is a little bit unnatural that you're having vehicles to park would actually have to cross the bike lane to park. So if you're 100% focused on the bike lane, maybe not the absolute best thing for the bike lane. But for the overall function of the street, I think this allows you to keep that street functioning similar to how it functions now. You're providing a bike lane in the current inbound town lane, which is going to reduce traffic on the street, reduce turning movements, and provide some safety. And what it does is by putting that bike lane on the southern side, this this lane here of bike traffic, bikes have to ride with cars. Okay, so pedestrians, they always recommend if you're a runner or a walker, you walk opposite. If you're a biker, you bike with vehicles. And it is a regulation on PennDOT standpoint that you can't have bikes traveling in a direction that's opposite of cars without some sort of physical barrier there. And that was what led to a lot of our design criteria on the last iteration and why the cars were in the middle. They provided that physical barrier from the bike lane. In this situation, the bike lane would travel with traffic, so there would not need to be any physical median here in the center. This lane is your bike traffic that comes into town, and that's protected by this bike lane and this paint. That separation is enough to meet safety requirements from PennDOT standpoint. The other thing that I am happy to report, and if you like nothing else about this design, what I think you might like is we get back darn near all of our parking that we were about to lose on this street. We lost a lot of parking due to when the parking's out in the middle, we had to shrink it down so that the turning radius would work. If you pull the cars back towards the curb, you're maintaining your same turning radiuses right now. And worst case scenario, if you have a larger vehicle, they can kind of spill over into the bike lane to make that big sweeping turn that they might need to make, just like they would do today. If you're making a right-hand turn from 2nd Street to go towards the river, you might have to take it a little wide into that onbound traffic lane to make it. The same thing would happen in this situation. So the other thing I'll note on this, just as kind of one more positive, is we looked very closely. One second, sorry. We looked a lot at the 2nd Street intersection, which is down here. So this would be 2nd Street coming off of 462. We did a lot of safety improvements here to make sure that the bike lane worked with the cross traffic. If we move the bike lane over here, that bike traffic can free flow and traffic can continue to move as it currently does. So I think it's actually a safety improvement for this intersection with 2nd Street. You create a conflict with the other 2nd Street, a little closer to River, but I think you'll all agree there's a lot less traffic and a lot less turning movement at that intersection. So I'd rather have the conflict at that intersection than the one coming off the bridge.
Derek, can you show the Commerce Street intersection?
Yes, sir. And this could change as well, actually, too, Mayor. Before we comment too much on Commerce, this represents the old design.
Mm-hmm.
Again, with the turning radius being a concern, we actually pushed the stop bar over to this section of Commerce Street. What I could see happening with this design is the stop bar would be moved back to this side of the street where it currently is. This side of Commerce could then be a bike lane. So we could easily, and again, just the sketch for right now, but we could easily, right here in this bike lane, we could paint kind of a radiused turn in here to show the bikers that you could get off of this lane on the southern side and get to Commerce Street for an eventual connection, painted bike connection to the parking on Rotary.
Yeah, okay, and I like that, and I knew we were gonna have to cross traffic,
Yeah.
but when they start the bridge,
Mm-hmm.
we're gonna lose, I don't even think it's named, alongside of the bridge.
Yeah. That's what I've been referring to
Parking
as,
area.
Rotary.
Rotary Avenue, that's what it is. We'll lose that.
Yep.
So down the road, Lord knows how long, then we can transition into that.
Yep. We'll get back. And I'll point out that down here at the last thing I'll say here is at the 441 intersection, this is what this transition would then look like. Again, I will admit, I'm not a big fan of this. I really don't like that this is marked for bike. You're promoting bikes to basically get on the sidewalk and cross like pedestrians, and that's not how bikes work. Bikes are supposed to adhere to traffic. Chief, back me up if I'm saying anything wrong here. But bikes are supposed to adhere to vehicular traffic laws and vehicular traffic movements. So this isn't I understand that if you want to get off your bike and push it, or anybody in a stroller, absolutely, walk over here, use the push button, cross at the crosswalk. That's the way you should go. But if you're mounted on your bike, you should be over here at the stop bar at the light, waiting for the light to turn green. If you're heading into town, you're going to go and you're going to hit our bike lane, and boom, you're going to come right into town. If you're heading towards the river, this is where this one transition has to happen, is you're going to jump out of the bike lane, and this becomes a shared lane with vehicles. You wait for the light to turn green, you cross with the vehicles. I know that this is a very intimidating intersection for a lot. It is. The one kind of, again, promise I have here, or the one hope I have moving forward, is that it'll feel a little bit safer to cross this road once Walnut Street becomes a one-way, because you are eliminating any vehicle on 441 here can no longer turn right. And there are a significant number of vehicles who are on 441 and turning right on red. So when you eliminate that movement in and of itself, this movement feels a lot safer, because when you get the green light as a bike, you can cross this knowing that the vehicle sitting here can only go straight. I think that'll provide a lot more safety for this intersection.
Will there be a physical barrier to prevent vehicles from going up Walnut Street?
No, there will not.
Where's the signage? Do not enter signs?
There'll be do not enter signs, no right turn, one way. They're proposed not only at ground level, but we would put them up on the masts for the traffic lights.
Coming out of the park, I've observed the number of cars making right turns on red because there's no sign there saying you can't make right turns on red.
That's fine coming out of River Park. And again, I'm not saying right now it's not allowed. What I'm saying is anybody on 441 traveling northbound.
Right, I understand.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So we can't restrict vehicles turning out of River Park right on red unless PennDOT warrants it.
Right.
It's their intersection.
It's not there now.
Yeah. So we would have to make a traffic justification to try to implement that. Definitely something we could bite off down the road. I would not recommend we do it as part of this process.
Turn right on red.
No, double tracks, I think you're right, they wouldn't want it.
So as you've probably picked up by now, I feel pretty strongly about this new design. I really like it. I've vetted a lot of the kind of the pros and cons, and while I understand it's a change, especially this far into the project, at this point we're talking about paint. This is a change in paint. We're not changing anything with the actual engineering design. It's a change in paint and signage.
So cost.
There's no change to construction cost. You might have a couple more linear feet of paint here, which is negligible in a $1.5, $1.6 million project.
It's a much better solution.
So
Good pivot.
timeline, I have a meeting with PennDOT tomorrow to discuss kind of implications on timeline to make a change. I believe we'll have to go through a pavement marking review. This actually addresses, we were getting held up because of our signal permit. This design change would address the open common and the signal permit, so we'd actually be able to get that. So it helps us on one side, but it would likely have to go through a pavement marking and a safety review at PennDOT. That said, I'm not seeing a considerable amount of engineering effort, nor am I seeing a considerable amount of review time on PennDOT's front. We were already looking for this project. We weren't thrilled with the timing, with this being kind of a summer bid opening. The authorization to proceed for this was going to come in, September, October. Not a great time to start this project anyway. I think this gives us a good reason to delay a month or two, which would push us into a spring start date, which is, I think, what we all want. I'd rather do it in the spring than try to build it over the winter.
Derek, I have two comments.
Yep.
I would say a positive comment is I like the right side bike lane. Because if you're going to actually cross over the river,
Yep.
you're gonna use Second Street anyway.
Right.
So 1/2 streets aren't gonna be used anyway. This way, traffic is to the right and pushes everything back in town. So on that note, and it being a one-way street, why wouldn't we shut down crossing the tracks at that section right there to vehicles leaving River Park? And you use the Union Street exit as an exit for that?
You don't want to send traffic on an unsignaled crossing.
That's no signal on Union.
Okay, that's fair. I'm just trying to think, that would open up the, like you said, with the bike crossing over at the
Right,
curb and stuff like that?
right.
Okay.
I see a lot of bikes on that side now, Harry.
This is, this whole project was supposed to be a modification, and it sounds like it's gonna be just curbs and sidewalk. And these are all basically business properties. So again, we're giving businesses free curbs and sidewalks, which I have a problem with.
No, it's all,
Rental units,
no, that's true.
Same
Just the
thing.
Number of rental units, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I will note lighting as well. Brand new street lights.
buy more lights.
These are gonna fit.
I have to say as well, if you were done,
Okay.
at first I was like, oh, come on, another change to the scope of this project. But in meeting and going over this, like I'm convinced that this is better. We get more parking out of it. I think it makes the safety improvements, and especially if we would have had to cut off the bike lane at the end, it's like almost completely against what we were aiming for. Originally, when the first scope of this project came out as in the design phase, it had the curbs, it had the trees up the center of the street, like it was a completely different streetscape. And it changed the whole street. It would have felt like this gateway, trees up the middle, like very elegant, something that's completely different than any other street that we have, which is what we were kind of aiming for, but then obviously that didn't work. So I think this makes it much more usable and it's familiar to everyone in town and on that street. I think we would have had problems with parking in the middle of the street just with paint being the lines and for street maintenance, all that. I think it just makes sense to do it this way.
I agree with you, Pete, but I think if we put enough trees on both sides of the street, we can help that look a lot.
Yeah.
Are trees an option for the property owner?
I just,
Like
if we're gonna put the curb and sidewalk in, I'd say.
We do have trees in the scope of this project, so the lighting, when the original design had the trees in the middle, and what that actually forced us to do is we had lights opposing each other up the street because the trees were blocking the crossover of the light. So with the trees out of the middle of the road, we were able to go to more of a traditional staggered, and basically anywhere across from a light is where a tree's gonna go.
But I'm saying,
So,
I remember on the Walnut Street project, up where Kelly lives.
oh yeah,
And that was redone. You gave the owners, the property owners, the option of planting trees or not, because they had to take care of them. So is this another instance where we're going to be asking rental owners, do you want a tree because you have to take care of it? Or we're going to plant trees and we'll take care of it?
Todd, that was a nightmare.
What was a nightmare?
The 700 and 800 block doing that process.
So we're saying,
yeah.
if we want trees, we're putting trees in.
Just put them in, please.
Yeah, we're putting the trees
Good, I was
here.
hoping you'd say that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
my design is
That's
I'm
what-
putting
that's
the
where I was
trees,
going.
yeah, I'm putting the trees where they are appropriate to go to interact with our lighting plan and where there's enough open space, not only between the properties, but also the underground utilities. Yeah, I believe the borough tried to cater
No.
at the time and.
We miss our trees in 800 block, trust me.
Yeah,
I talked my new neighbor into getting one, so we have a
good,
third tree in the block now.
good.
Thank you.
Yep.
Anything else? All right. All right, moving on to action items.
Cool.
Do I have a motion to authorize the bill payments?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Councilperson Kaufman, second by Councilperson Murphy to authorize the bill payments. Are there any questions, comments, or concerns? No. Seeing none, I have the motion by Councilperson Kaufman, second by Councilperson Murphy to authorize the bill payments. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Next, we actually have 3 of them. So we'll get a motion on the first one, and then we can talk about basically all 3. We can let Chief go through it, and then we can do the other 2. Do I have a motion to approve the hiring of Blaine Schaffner for position of police officer contingent upon the passage of all employment testing and thorough background exam?
Second.
I have a motion by Councilperson Brigard and the second by Councilperson Kaufman. Chief, do you want to go through because they're all the same, so.
Sure, let me just give a little bit of background. So within the last 2 to 4 weeks, we were notified by 2 of our senior officers, Sergeant Stein, who has 27 years of service, and Officer Dan Bell, who has 28 years of service, that they are leaving, they are retiring on August 1st. Okay, so that is certainly going to leave quite a void. In my discussion with council, I believe we spoke about 3 weeks ago, I had expressed concern, and anticipated this as well. So we are planning on having, with your permission, at least 3 to 4 officers attend the academy starting July 7th. So that's in an effort to offset those that are leaving. We do currently have a complement of 19 officers, but obviously with the 2 that are leaving in August, and then we have another officer we anticipate who is retiring the end of the year in December.
Questions, comments? No.
Yeah.
I do have one question though, just making sure everything's in order. I did not receive the civil service letter.
I apologize.
Can-
We do have it.
Can we make sure we get that
Yes, sir.
and to include so that we have, because we.
Yes, yes, sir. We do have it.
Okay, yeah, I just wanted to, I'm not gonna hold up a motion for it,
Yes,
but I just want to make sure we do get that on file.
yes.
Thank
I
you.
will get that to you.
I think the council needs to understand that these officers would start training in July.
That's correct, July
They'll
7th.
start in July, so they're going to be in school till about the first of the year, around the first of the year.
Right.
Then it will be a couple months until they're able to get out on their own to do patrol work. So you're probably looking at these officers being productive next spring, sometime early next spring.
That's pushing it.
Yeah, and that's pushing it. And at that time, as Chief said, 3 officers will be gone.
Mhm.
So right now, here's 3, and 3 will be gone. So there's going to be a void for a few months till these officers are through training and out on the street on their own. To back that up, the chief has several officers because in some of the retirements, we're losing some of our field training officers. And several other officers now are going through field training school. So they're going to be picking up some slack. So there's going to be some challenges for the next year in the Columbia Borough Police Department. And along with those challenges, it appears that for a period of time next year, we may not have an officer on the drug task force. And that's purely out of necessity. We have to see what happens after January 1. The good part of that is one of the officers that retiring at the end of the year is our officer on the drug task force, and is going to be working for the drug task force. So as while we're losing an officer, we still basically, we have some eyes on Columbia in that interim, but we're going to have to fill that position. And Chief, I believe you are working towards that right now.
Yes, sir. Yes.
I'm just impressed that we actually got 3 candidates that, I mean, it's been so difficult. So I'm glad to see that we actually have 3 candidates to approve, so.
The nice thing about it is, how many, was it 5? Pick from. Out of 5, you got 3. These 3 candidates they scored very high in the test. So it's not like you're picking people just to fill spots. These young folks scored real high in the test, and the word from the civil service is they were very impressed with these candidates.
Yeah, and just to tag along on what the mayor's saying, both civil service and our officers are very impressed with the quality of people we are getting. We're not getting the quantity, but we certainly are getting the quality.
Especially with the last few hires.
No, certainly, yes.
And, I don't have to tell you, but I'll just let everyone else know. I mean, last week at the conference, that was one of the things that multiple boroughs were lamenting, was the difficulty in attracting police officers and how their forces are aging and they're not getting the young people to come in to fill their spots. So we are not alone.
Well, Heather, this is something that 25 years ago, most municipalities bid on, and you mentioned it here tonight. There was a grant out there. Columbia Borough took advantage of the grant and hired 5 officers. And then when the grant money ran out, they retained the officers, but no one retired. Some people did leave for other reasons and all. So now these guys are all leaving at the same time. This is happening universal because of that federal grant.
Yep.
It's scary that, and we have to look hard at if any Fed money comes out for police, that it doesn't put us right in that same situation again.
Yes,
because you're much better off, even though we're not going to have a chance to, you're much better off when you're stratified.
Yes.
As far as the age of service of your employees.
Yes.
So we got to watch that. Hopefully it'll come out in time to bear some of those costs for putting these officers on.
All right. Are there any other questions, comments, or concerns? This is all 3 of them. Yes, Frank.
Is there any of the 3 that have prior police background experience?
No,
None of them. And am I correct, Jack, you might be leaving around March or April? May. If you do, and someone from the department runs for that position, that would be another one, then we would be shy.
Any other comments? I have a motion by Councilperson Brigard and a second by Councilperson Kaufman to approve hiring Blaine Schaffner for the position of police officer contingent upon passage of all employment testing and a thorough background examination. All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Next, do I have a motion to approve the hiring of Toby Kohler for the position of police officer contingent upon passage of all employment testing and a thorough background exam?
Second.
Motion by Councilperson Brigard, second by Councilperson Kaufman, to approve the hiring of Toby Kohler for the position of police officer, contingent upon passage of employment testing and thorough background exam. All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? And finally, do I have a motion to approve the hiring of Nathan Nowak for position of police officer, contingent upon passage of employment testing and thorough background exam?
Second.
Motion by Councilperson Brigard, second by Councilperson Kaufman, to approve the hiring of Nathan Nowak for the position of police officer, contingent upon the passage of employment testing and thorough background exam. All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? All right. Next, I have it on here to consider, and I don't know how to pronounce the person's name, offer to purchase 611 and 623 North Fifth Street from the repository of unsold properties for $1,000 each. I kind of updated the thing we saw last year. Last May, we had discussed these two properties, and basically on there, it's parcel number 3 and parcel number 5 that we're talking about. One is what we know as Zion Hill Cemetery. Parcel 4 is owned by the Zion Hill Cemetery, care of Albert Long, which doesn't exist. And then these other two parcels. This person from New York is looking to purchase them. Basically, what happens is we get letters from the Tax Claim Bureau asking us to either approve or deny the sale of these properties to this person or entity. And we have to provide that information. We have to provide a yes or a no. It says we can't unnecessarily withhold approval, but my question to Evan was, what is unnecessary? Like, it's very vague.
I can tell you that blast everybody. The courts have kind of said that the Tax Claim Bureau enjoys very wide latitude in who they sell these properties to. They're not required, even if you gave consent, they are not required to sell the property to anyone who is potentially bidding on these properties in the repository. And, as far as unnecessarily withhold consent, there's not a lot of case law out there. But again, I think you enjoy pretty wide latitude as to whether you feel comfortable selling these properties. You are not, when they're in the repository, you are not getting any tax money from them. These are properties that went into tax sale and then no one bid on them. So they're just kind of sitting there. But they are owned in trust at this point by the Lancaster County Tax Claim Bureau. But again, I think you enjoy pretty wide latitude in either giving your consent or not to the sale of these properties.
Right. And as I had noted in the executive brief, these were the ones we had talked about last spring to work to acquire. And then with the departure of the previous borough manager, and then council's appetite for acquiring property was waning, and so it just sort of fell by the wayside. So, I mean, if we still want to pursue that, we could certainly deny the request and let the Tax Claim Bureau know that we're denying the request because, for whatever reason, we believe it.
These are pretty important property.
Yeah.
I mean, I think given some of the work that's been done up there, there's a good possibility that there are grave sites on at least the one that is labeled number 3 up there, and very possibly number 5 as well. Given that number 4 is literally needed to Zion Hill Cemetery, which again, as Heather mentioned, is not an entity which we've been able to locate anything existing But I think it's a very good possibility that there are some historic, and historically important, grave sites on one or both of those properties.
Yeah, if I have the positions right, looking at the map, I can almost guarantee you there's burials on 5.
Mhm.
I don't know what the person that wants to buy these, any inkling of what they want to do with them?
No, they're from New York. It's an LLC. My guess is they just see them and they're like, oh, I can get this cheap, and then figure out what to do with it. I mean, we are allowed to ask them for a bunch of
Yeah.
stuff
It's very, they're not anything about what.
they
they're
want
gonna
to do.
with it, But whether they're delinquent in any taxes, things like that is what you're allowed to ask them, whether they're in good standing with the state of Pennsylvania, and that sort of thing.
I mean, it could very well be they just need something to be a negative asset for tax purposes.
And I understand it, but it's not that much money involved.
Well, you're right, I know, and
I think the borough should hang on to those properties.
yeah, I mean, the total assessed value of the 2 parcels is $52,000, so.
So you said, if you say no, what happens to the properties?
They remain in the repository until someone else bids on them. So the
Right.
borough could conceivably, again, we would have liked to have done this earlier.
Right.
The paperwork got filled out, and with Mark leaving, it just never got.
So what would the purchase price be for us if we were to buy it? This guy's making $1,000 per parcel bid.
We could go in and say, we'll give you $100.
So
And
we'd
it's
say-
up to them to say if they'll sell
So
it
we
to
could
us or not.
deny this and say, we want it for $100 or $1,000. We'll just match the price, $1,000 we'll take.
Mhm.
You absolutely can.
And the value for us keeping it is, number one, historical value. Really can't do anything with the land. If we own it, we can't collect tax on it.
Yeah, I think and this could certainly change, but the idea at one point was to combine properties 1, 3, 4, and 5 with a reverse subdivision plan and make sure that that property is preserved and taken care of for, generations to come, that they can visit that cemetery.
And make sure that we have it all named the same name, and that is Zion Hill. We want to get rid of the Columbia Boroughs Potter's Field.
Which was the original plan,
Yes.
if I'm remembering correctly.
Yes.
That sounds like a winner.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
I mean, parcel number 3 is only 0.06 of an acre.
I mean,
Not buildable.
I don't think you could put a tree house on there in those setbacks.
Right, I don't think you could either. So, does anyone have a motion? Do you want that to be approved, deny?
Personally, I think we should deny it, but then we should also, next meeting or one of our soon-to-be subsequent meetings, we should, get back in action and take action to.
We already took action.
We already
I
took
know,
action,
but-
so all we need to do is to say we're gonna deny this.
Yeah.
All right. Do I have a motion to deny the offer to purchase 611 and 623 North Fifth Street from the repository?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Councilperson Kaufman, second by Councilperson Stahl to deny the offer to purchase 611 and 623 North Fifth Street from the repository of unsold properties for $1,000 each. All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? All right, and Evan, you're gonna get the wording.
Yep, I've already got it.
Okay.
Yep, we'll make sure we
Yeah.
get it over.
Yeah, because we have to get that to the tax bureau tomorrow.
But I think what Kelly was after is now you want to move to purchase.
We already did that.
You have done that, you did that.
We already did that a year ago.
Oh, okay, so that's already in
It's
motion.
already been, it's already been.
Wonderful.
Yeah, we just gotta finish it up.
Yeah.
They even followed up with us about that paperwork, did they not?
The tax claim bureau?
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
Yeah,
I think I
that's
remember
great.
you
Yeah, I don't
wrong.
have that language.
Well, right, I know. So, yeah, that's, all right, so there we go.
Great.
10F has been removed. That was the special event application. All All right, 10G. Could I have a motion to authorize staff to advertise the position of borough manager?
So moved.
I have a motion by Councilperson Fisher, second by Councilperson Brigard, to authorize staff to advertise the position of borough manager. All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed?
Me. No.
Two.
Okay. We have some new business. The, yes, sure. I mean,
I just have one question.
When you advertise who's going to do the interviews, are you going to pay for a headhunter again?
we haven't decided that. I mean, this literally just happened yesterday. We haven't talked about it yet, but we need to get the authorization to advertise so that we can do that sooner rather than later. We'll be having an executive session after this meeting to discuss personnel matters where we will talk about that stuff.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Next, we're asked to consider awarding the contract number 1 for site improvements to H&P Construction at the base bid of $272,224.13 for the Maple Park Improvement Project. We actually have 2 things to consider here because they were separate bids. One is the site improvements, and the second one is the electric contract. Derek, did you want to walk us through this?
Yeah, actually, I have a little curveball for you, Heather,
Oh my goodness.
YSM Architects, who's your prime on this, they sent over a letter today. They vetted the contractors, and they would like you to or at least table the award of the electrical contract until next meeting. They just need to do a little bit more research on this contractor to feel comfortable awarding to them. There were some mixed reviews and some concern over experience there. So they'd asked for a little bit more time. The good news is we feel comfortable moving ahead with the site contractor. That's the that's the main one. So, but are there any questions on the scope or process? You're all familiar with the project at this point.
And so just so I can make sure that I understand it right, the base bid includes the trees and furniture.
Yes.
Okay. Just wanted, because for some reason I'm looking at it and I'm like, wait a minute. I just couldn't wrap my head around it. So thank you. All right. Is there any questions?
Is this where the bathroom's going to go?
Yes.
And what are these 2 bids in relation to the bathroom? Is that like the electrical? Is that much more lights and everything else? It's not just for the bathroom itself.
No. It's for the electrical work that has to be done throughout Maple Park.
And when you just come on and said, did you say something about trees?
Yes.
So the trees is part of the bathroom, a part of that bid.
The bathroom is part of the Maple Park project.
Yeah.
So it's so till it's all said and done, in the packet, I explained on the executive brief that these 2 are in addition to the one up to 150,000 that we approved for the bathroom. So that all makes the whole project. It's not all just a bathroom. There's all kinds of site improvements that are happening at Maple Park.
Okay, and what is our part of the bid?
40.
What's our share?
20%,
Which is,
which would be $107,644.83.
no, thank you.
And that's assuming it's up to 150,000. We don't, the bathroom may actually end up being slightly less. However, we should also be able to recoup some of our engineering costs because these bids do not add up to the full grant. So in order to use that full grant, we may be able to get some of our engineering money back as well, which would be nice. Does anyone have any other questions? No? Okay. They do want us to award the site improvements, correct?
Yes, please.
Okay. So do I have a motion to award contract number 1 site improvements to H&P Construction at the base bid amount of $272,224.13 for Maple Park Improvement Project?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Councilperson Kaufman, second by Councilperson Stahl, to award contract number 1, site improvement contract to H&P Construction at the base bid of $272,224.13 for the Maple Park Improvement Project. All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? All right, since we were considering it, we're not going to move forward with the electrical bid this evening. We'll probably hear more about that at the
I will
end of
be
the
here, I will be here on the 24th for other business already, so we will tackle the electrical bid then. Either we'll be
Okay.
awarding to this low bid or potentially the second level.
Okay. And if we do award to the second low, that is going to change our money a little bit.
Yes, we're gonna do what we can to get the low bid
Yeah.
awarded.
Yes, we are. That's a big, that's like $35,000, almost $40,000. So, okay. Next, we have a special event request for Philip Whitmer to have a wedding ceremony on the lawn between Columbia Crossing and the Susquehanna River from 3 to 11 p.m. on Saturday, October 25th. Does anyone have any questions on this? Does anyone have a problem voting on this?
Is this wedding also going to be in the crossing? Or
I
don't
think
we know?
it said the reception was gonna be.
Reception's in the building.
Yeah, I think the reception's in the building.
It says the reception's in the Columbia Crossing.
They want to use the lawn till 11 p.m.
Well, probably because they have people inside, they'll have people inside and outside.
Parking.
Seems rather late.
I mean, you know,
Mhm.
maybe the main part of it's set up and tear down too.
Yeah.
Your own stuff.
Does anyone have a problem voting on this one? Do I have a motion to approve the special event request for Phil Whitmer to have a wedding on the lawn?
So moved.
Okay.
I have a motion by Councilperson Kaufman, second by Councilperson Murphy, to approve a special event request for Philip Whitmer to have a wedding ceremony on the lawn between Columbia Crossing Building and the Susquehanna River from 3 to 11 p.m. on Saturday, October 25th, contingent upon receipt of required certificate of insurance. All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Next, we have a request from the Merchants Association to use Sadie Lane for additional seating during the Mac and Cheese Festival, which is being held in the Market House on Saturday, September 27th, from 5 to 8 p.m. This isn't the first time we've had this. Does anyone have any questions?
I don't like shutting down CDC.
Yeah,
I understand. Just don't want to see it be a habit.
Does anyone have a problem voting on this one?
No.
No. Do I have a motion to approve the Merchants Association to use Sadie Lane for additional seating during the annual Mac and Cheese Festival?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Councilperson Kaufman, second by Councilperson Geezy, to approve the Merchants Association to use Sadie Lane for additional seating during the annual Mac and Cheese Festival, which is being held in the Market House on Saturday, September 27th from 5 to 8 p.m. Contingent upon receipt of the required certificate of insurance, approval from the market manager, and receipt of the $50 event application fee. All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Just a question. Why are we getting these if we haven't even received the application fee?
Sometimes the applications are turned in, and there's some uncertainty as to whether they're responsible for the fee or not.
Yeah.
So I think that's maybe why it's brought before council.
Yeah, I mean, I think that part of that fee is all the work that for all the work that goes into getting this ready. I think we should be having those.
Okay. So be your desire to ensure that the fee is received prior to
Right.
placing it on.
Yeah. All right. And next especially, I mean, I can see if it was one of those where it wasn't in the 60 days and we didn't have the time, but when we have the time.
Sure.
So, next, we're asked to consider approval for the Merchants Association to host a Prince and Princess Tea Party Parade on the front and rear Market House sidewalks, as well as on Avenue I on Saturday, August 23rd, beginning at 2 p.m., contingent upon receipt of certificate of insurance, approval from the Market House manager, and receipt of the $50 event application fee. Are there any questions on this? Yes, Frank.
That's really the one that I wanted to comment on. Does anybody know what this really is? Is this a procession that's going all around the market house?
I don't know
is it?
that any of us know,
Daisy's
but
here.
Daisy's here to answer.
Yeah, what is it really?
So this is our first annual one. It's a fundraiser for the Merchants Association. And actually, it's a,
Daisy, do you want to come to the microphone so we can make sure we get it on the live feed?
and actually, the word missing there, but it's been my error. It's a Prince and Princess Tea and Parade. So
Okay.
it's not just a parade. It's going to be a tea that's going to be ticketed, and then we're going to end the evening with a bikes, trikes, and wagon parade.
Parade route.
From the corner of Sadie here, because we didn't want to close Sadie again,
Thank you.
the whole way to the alley and around. It's a U.
And you prefer kids on the alley over Sadie?
Well, we would be.
No, not you.
Okay.
It's not as attractive. It's better for police not to have to go out to Cherry Street.
And this is from 2 p.m. to when?
5.
5.
Let's put it on Sadie.
So if we start the parade on the opposite end and come down Sadie, maybe the opposite direction.
Yep.
Were your plans to have the tea party
Inside the market house,
inside the market house
yes,
and then come out for a parade?
correct.
The parade won't affect the parking of the police cars. It would just affect if you had to rush through there.
It sounds like the parade should be relatively brief.
Correct.
Oh, yeah, that's what I'm thinking too, like,
And they're gonna probably stand on the awning anyway.
Yeah, we'll be okay. And the reason I said that is Avenue I, going across Market Street, you're gonna have to block it off. And what that does, that creates a real problem in the parking lot. Because you won't be able to come out of the parking lot, try to turn down and get out of there. You have to go up that alley and Avenue I, and that's a bad intersection on Fourth Street.
mhm.
And do you foresee that parents and family members will be out there as well, taking pictures of their kids as they go around?
For those couple
So-
hours, the officers will be all right.
Yeah, you can anticipate there might be quite a few people out there.
It's the first annual. I don't know what to expect.
Yeah.
Obviously, we're expecting to
I think it's a really
sell
cute
lots of-
idea.
Yeah,
Yeah.
lots of tickets.
I hope they have fun.
Anyone have any other questions? Does anyone have a problem voting?
When I seen this, I remember when Chris, they used that alleyway, Shady Lane, and whenever they used the outside of the thing, I didn't know if there was one vendor going to pay the $50, and now they had a whole bunch of stands. This is what I was trying to visualize. So that they wasn't just getting away, paying the $50. Now you see all these other stands outside. Chris, I think, got money from each one of them.
This isn't a vendor event. This is just,
Well, I didn't know that, you know,
No,
I
it's-
didn't know
it's
the
not.
content, and I don't think council did either, so I understand now more what it is. But I just wanted to tell you why I was asking the question.
do I have a motion to approve the Merchants Association to host the Prince and Princess Tea Party and Parade?
So moved.
A motion by Councilperson Kaufman, second by Councilperson Geezy, to approve the Merchants Association to host a Prince and Princess Tea Party and Parade on both the front and rear Market House sidewalks as well as Sadie Lane on Saturday, August 23rd, beginning at 2 p.m., from 2 p.m. to 5 p.m., contingent upon receipt of required certificate of insurance, approval from the market manager, and receipt of the $50 event application fee. All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? All right.
Thank you.
I guess we'll see. Okay. Staff reports, comments, and announcements. Solicitor Gable.
I don't have anything additional to that.
Thank you. Engineer Ronaldo.
I'm sorry, I have to. We got too much going on. So McGinnis bids are due in a week. We'll be looking to award that contract at the 24th, so be ready for that. Street projects, Chestnut and 8th Street, the contractor SM Johns is looking to begin that work the first week of August is what the proposed schedule is. 900 block to 1,000 block of Walnut. I had a pre-construction meeting this morning with the contractor Doug Lamb. They're looking to begin that project in 2 to 3 weeks, and I stressed that I wanted it done by mid-August so that we're not interrupting school. So they're going to do everything they can. Of course, with the caveat that if it keeps raining like this, it's going to be tough, but they're going to do everything they can to get that done.
I mean, yeah, if they can do the 900 block first and, you know, if they're still working up at the,
The concrete, they don't have any concerns about the concrete. They know the concrete, they should be able to get that done. It's getting the paving done. And that's really a 2-day operation till they mill it and pave it. It's going to be a matter of getting the concrete done and then getting the paver in and making sure that all happens. So that's the only thing that might be an issue, but hopefully.
all right.
That's it.
Derek, I have 2 questions for you. McGinnis. When should we start having a discussion? Let me backtrack. We were told at the one meeting that we were going to have more information or the property was going to be reassessed. And then we also talked about how far do we go with this project? When are we gonna have those talks?
Good.
Once
Yeah,
we
look to my
have
left
the
here.
appraisals,
The
to
appraisals
know-
were ordered, correct? Yeah.
yeah, but part of it is also waiting to see what the bid is for the phase one, because
I understand
yeah,
that.
so, I mean, once we get the appraisals in, we can decide, this is what it would be after phase one.
I just want to try and
phase
keep a timeline because
two. Oh, no,
the zoning stuff came too close to the time limit.
well, I know, and that's part of the whole marketing thing, is that we've got to kind of wait until we're sure that that zoning is buttoned up.
Okay.
So, and I have been assured that it is on the July agenda for the County Planning Commission, so.
I forget the other thing.
You sure? If you think about it, you can ask him. All right, Secretary Treasurer, Mr. Kaufhold.
I have nothing further.
All right, boards, commissions, and committees. At this point, there's no upcoming meetings.
Parks and Rec,
Oh, what?
Parks and Rec,
Parks and Rec, you know what? I think I didn't do this.
Thursday at 6.
Parks and Rec is this Thursday at 6 PM.
Planning Commission is next Tuesday, the 17th.
Planning Commission is next Tuesday, the 17th. No workshop, just the meeting at 7 PM. And the Shade Tree is Monday, the 23rd. There were no approved minutes in the package. Borough Council comments, Councilperson Brigard.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, just want to reiterate, thank Chief Brommer and undoubtedly Pam Arnold. I knew her fingers were all over it. And Borough Manager Kaufhold for their expeditious execution of their senior parking permits.
And if I may, Paula Diffendorfer was.
All the different as well.
Yes.
If everything could be done as efficiently as that project, and that'd be great. Good as news when we go into that. Thank you.
Nothing for me.
Nothing from me at this time.
I have an idea for parking at the river park. Specifically when events happen down there, we have some leniency and enforcement of the boat trailer parking. I think that actually it could be a little idea for revenue, is that when events are held in the river park, if they need overflow parking, we could offer an event parking fee and section off part of that parking lot designated with signage, so that they pay the fee or apply for the parking, pay the fee, and then regularly, unless it's signed for an event, it would get enforced. I think that could help solve the clarity of when do we enforce it, when do we not for our parking enforcement, and be able to have some consistency and a little bit of revenue.
There may be a problem.
I was wondering that because of the Fish and Boat Commission.
Yeah.
Because they stipulate, like, they control the parking around the boat ramps and
They
stuff,
paid
right?
for it. They paid
Yeah,
for
they
it.
paid for
They
it.
have the long bridge.
I think there is actually an ordinance in effect.
There is.
Stipulates the Memorial Day,
Labor Day.
Labor Day, that is particular parking with the.
It's all year round.
Chief and I have talked, and I can't remember if we talked with the Heritage area or not, but there is a parking area, an overflow parking area on the grass
Yeah.
that has geotextile fabric in it, that quite possibly, that's on our lawn. It's not in the parking lot.
It's designated overflow parking.
We could see, we talked about possibly allowing them to comb that area for their event parking. And that would take up some of it. So we haven't got that deep into the discussion, but just got beat up the other day about this parking down there.
Yes, I know. I got a voicemail.
Oh, so you got the same voicemail.
Well, I emailed it to all of council, so they all saw the email. Yeah, we kind of got beat up on
Gotta
that.
ask, are all of those trailer spots necessary? I mean, are there times when that
Oh,
lot
yeah.
is completely full of trailers?
There's times when we put them up in the meadow.
Okay, got it.
Yep.
It's-
Well,
it's
and
a
that's the-
challenge. I don't think people utilize Heritage Lane the way they should.
No. But also, when there is an event, is it, I don't know, can that culvert support the traffic going over to have them park in the meadow?
Yeah, yeah. We've done that numerous times.
Yeah, I mean, I know we've done that for like Albert Witch and stuff, so why
Well,
couldn't?
the problem is if you're wearing high heels and.
True, yeah.
Grass is uncut, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's.
But I can't
yes,
imagine, I
that is
can't
okay.
imagine that building holds that many people that they can't use Heritage Lane parking.
There's a lot of parking there.
There is a lot of parking there and around the building itself.
I think we need to communicate to Susquehanna National Heritage that they need to communicate to the people that are coming for events that they cannot park in that lot.
It's been done already.
Yeah.
And they do make that a standard process,
Mm-hmm.
you know, when booking an event. So
Yeah.
it's made very clear.
Mm-hmm.
That lot you're talking about, the AstroTurf, I forget what you called it.
Yeah.
What if you designated that, you're talking about high heels, what if you designated that area bike parking? Folks that are using the trail, they're there in sports shoes, bicycles, they're not there in high heels.
Normally, these events take place in the evening,
Mm-hmm.
so you don't have, but that's,
I'm just saying, just.
That's an excellent
just
idea.
Make that the bike parking area.
okay. And
I still don't understand why people with their bikes aren't parking up at Rotary, because that is so
Right,
much
it's much
closer
I
to
don't
the,
think our signage is appropriate.
I know, I think we need to do a better job with that, because if we can get them out of River Park and up there,
Yeah.
it would be much better.
Oh, yeah, and there are a lot who use it, but Heritage Drive has a lot of parking
Yes, it does.
up to the tower. You can put a lot of vehicles in there. You know, but with the area you're talking about, Todd, you can pull in, drop your significant other off if they have heels and everything on, and then park on the grass. Come around.
I think what we need is, like, a lot of lots have like a large green P for parking with an arrow.
Mhm.
And when in crossing the tracks, to have the sign pointing over to the on-street parking.
Yeah.
And even have an overflow parking with an arrow pointing out across the bridge to the meadow.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Pete. We need to do a good job on that
Yes,
parking.
we do. All right. Anything else, Peter?
No, thanks.
All right. I have nothing this evening. Announcement of next meeting at 7 PM on Tuesday, June 24th. Council will hold a regular meeting. This evening, we will be adjourning to executive session to discuss personnel matters. Could I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
A motion by Councilperson Kaufman, second by Councilperson Geezy, to adjourn at 9:14 PM. All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? We're adjourned. All right, I am back to not signing checks. I'm the only one that has access to the bank account.
That's a fair enough. Hey, man.
Yeah.
Sending you an email with the process for that.
I just in case.
No, I fully understand.
Steve, I forwarded
Suddenly,
that
that.
thing to you and Laurie. Just let me know if I'm to approve it, not approve it.
Which
The integrity.
Oh, yeah. I'll take care of that.
Just let me know. I have to know before like 3:00, so I can make sure I have time to go in and approve it by 4. Because if I have to approve it, I will. But It has to be done by 4 or it automatically declines.
So what I'm confused about in this particular case was Yes, sir. Keep waiting. I thought.